Hey everybody, this is Tasha with Prep For It. Mouse Toes is still out because she's from her surgery. She is doing much better. Thank you all for your prayers for her. I appreciate it. I will give it a couple of minutes for people to come through. But today I have a special guest. He's such a good friend. I've known him for years and years over here on YouTube, and he's a fellow Okie. Oklahoma. And anyways, he's recently got into ham radio. So he's not claiming to be like an expert or anything, but he's learning more and more every day. And so he's going to kind of discuss that and how that's related to prepping. He has two different channels. The Oklahoma Prepper is what I got to know him as. His name is Frank. And then his recent channel is Ham Shack, and Sandra will share those two links out periodically throughout the live stream so that y'all can go and sub him up. Now the Ham Shack only has like 17 subscribers right now because it's a new channel, right? But y'all need to go check it out. And Frank, before we get started on the ham radio, tell us about what you did, like as far as your living, where you're living and how you're living. Because I love that you did this.
All right, guys. So my name is Frank. I'm known as the Oklahoma Prepper, also the Ham Shack on YouTube. I live in a small town in southern Oklahoma. I actually live in a tiny house. It's a 12 by 48 lofted barn, 12 by 36 lofted barn cabin that is kind of hidden behind the backdrop. But this is pretty much, I'm doing the tiny house thing. In the winter, I run a wood stove, a barrel stove. It will burn you out of the house. And in the summer, I've got a big, I don't even remember how big it is, a window unit. It's directly above us. So if you hear that annoying noise in the background, it's probably my air conditioner.
We're not hearing anything.
Good.
Or I'm not. So.
I do plan here in the next several years to be completely off the grid, if you will. Not necessarily. I do want to be primarily solar and wind power. However, I will be attached to the grid power in case my personal system goes down. I have a backup. I have a redundancy, and I can go back to grid power.
Right, and I think that's smart.
Yeah. So. It is a work in progress, and for those of you who subscribe to me or who follow me on my Prepper channel, the Oklahoma Prepper, I do apologize to everyone. I work nights. I'm in law enforcement, and all I have energy for is to get off work and go to sleep. That's pretty much it. Let me adjust.
So you just haven't been posting a lot of videos here lately at all.
On top of that, I'm like I told you earlier, Tasha. I'm a fat boy, and fat boys don't like hot weather. And
hey, I'm a fat girl. I feel the same.
I put a short on my YouTube channel today saying I'm completely staying off of YouTube, or at least off of that channel until it cools down, because I do have a lot of reviews that I need to get done. I have a lot of content that needs to go up, and I do have a new sponsor, if you will. Just a friend of mine. He's got a beef jerky shop there in Wichita Falls, Texas, and he's agreed to sponsor me, and so I do need to get all of that going. But even today, it's September 8th, and the high today was 102, so I did as very little getting out of the house as I possibly could. So yeah, that's how my life has been here lately.
Awesome. Trying to say hi to everybody while I'm listening to you, so I'm trying to double. I'm not very good at tackling more than one thing at a time.
Me either.
Yeah. So he will put some more on there. So please go sub up his channel and stuff, and both channels, and he will give you content as he can. But he does, in the meantime, he does have content over there, so you can go and be catching up and giving those watch hours too. So good to see everybody that just came in. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for coming in. All right, so let's start getting started. In preparedness, it really is communications. Comms is one of the biggest things. Heidi, hey girl, Rain Country, good to see you. Okay, so communications is really important when we're talking about preparedness, whether it's for something like a regional disaster or a larger scale disaster. Comms are very important, whether it's just communicating with your local friends and family or on a broader level. So tell us how you got started into it, and kind of what the cost is and stuff, because is it real costly?
This is kind of going back. I'm showing my age a little bit, but when I was a kid, I really got into storm chasing, and part of being a storm chaser is getting your ham license and having ham radios and stuff like that in your vehicle to be able to talk to the National Weather Service. Well, here it is, 2021, and I just finally got my ham radio license. I figured during the C-19 shutdown, it was plenty time for me to study. So what I ended up doing is I found a free app on, for example, I have Google Play Store, and I'll pull it up on my phone so I can tell you exactly the name. It's Ham Radio Exam. For those of you who are interested in getting into it, the easiest thing to do is study the correct answers with the question. That way, when it's time to test, you'll know exactly, hey, that question doesn't look familiar, so that's not the right answer, or that answer doesn't look familiar, so it's not the right one. So then I found a local ham radio club that was doing an exam, and they do exams every 2 months. And I sent them an email and asked them, how long or how much is it going to cost? I'm going to be doing, we're going to need 2 tests. And at the time, it was $15 for the test. And let me rephrase that, it's $15 for the day. If you study up on your technician and your general and your extra class, so if you get all 3, if you feel comfortable enough to take all 3 tests, you can take all 3 tests right then and there for only $15. So that is not bad. However, the FCC is putting their hands into amateur radio a little more. So as any government entity, what will do is they want more money. So, and the $15 does not go to the test or the FCC itself. It just pays the VE or the volunteer examiner for the day to take his, taking his time out of the day to test and all that good stuff. Is that specific for each state? That's a good question. No, it is not. However, it is universal. However, the FCC is planning on charging for the online part of it. So to get your ham license, all that stuff, I think it's going to end up being like $48. So if you're interested in doing it, do it now. That way you can get in while it's cheap.
Yeah.
Now, to get on the air is a little bit expensive. I mean, it can be extremely expensive. There's radios out there up to $20,000. I'm
right.
never $20,000 radio.
Yeah.
Those are for contesters. There are contests on ham radio. That being said, I have a cheap $130 Bofang UV25X2. If you follow all of my ham radio, if you follow my ham radio channel, all of the links to all the equipment that I have are in the descriptions of my channels. And it's mostly on Amazon. Now, that being said, I did really good with under $200 just to get on the air. And so it is, Farmer Son is a ham operator. Awesome. So just to get on the air was really inexpensive. The main thing is pairing any radio really with a really good antenna can make you can talk all over the world pretty much. And it's actually the opposite with high frequency or HF rigs. You go out and spend $1,000 on a really decent ICOM radio, and you literally put the antenna together with garbage. I mean, you can literally go to the store and go to the dollar store, buy an extension cord, and if you know how to solder, you can actually put a ham radio antenna together. So it's
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you're spending a lot of money on a radio and going to the junkyard for your antenna stuff. So there is a big night and day. However, as a technician, I'm only limited to the 10 meter band on HF for voice or phone operations. So right now the 10 meter band is dead due to the lack of propagation.
Rain Countries want to know if we can share channel links again. Miss Sandra, if you have those, do you mind sharing those once again? Josh is sharing the Oklahoma Prepper one. If Sandra could share the Ham Shack one. It's just Ham Shack, not the Ham Shack. So anyway, so it doesn't sound like it's too crazy expensive to get started, really. I mean, like at a beginner level. I mean, you can, like with any hobby, you can really go to the extreme on with any hobby. But to get started so that you know what you're doing and how to use a radio and what frequencies you can be on and things like that, it isn't too expensive. It isn't crazy expensive. Even for a really tight budget, it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I live comfortable, but for the cost of living where I live is very cheap living anyway. So that being said, ham radio, the hobby is a big farmer's son prepping. I'm pretty sure he can chime in on this. The ham radio hobby turns into the broke wallet or the empty wallet hobby because it really does. It really does. Because once you get into ham radio, you don't really want to stop. I mean, I did good with a Tram 1180 antenna, and I really did great with it. I come across a good deal on it's a Tram 1480 antenna. I actually got it for $65 on Amazon, and it's a huge antenna. It's about an 8 or 9 foot antenna, and that is really, really affordable compared to some of the others like the Comet GP6. We're paying about $150 for the antenna. So yeah, Farmer Son Prepping says yes, yes, a very expensive hobby. And it very well
Chris and Jars, Miss Morgan has a question for you, if you could answer. Briefly, what's the difference between ham and HF?
Well, it's all the same. As a ham radio operator, you are, depending on your level, you are limited to certain frequencies. As a technician, I can do UHF, VHF, and this is just off the top of my head that I can think of, 10 meter, which with 10 meter, with VHF and UHF is normal police radios. However, we have certain bands that we can talk on as an amateur radio operator. Now, with HF, you can actually talk around the world with just literally, like I said, a piece of extension cord wire. So it's really that's whenever you really want to get into that's when the prepping this is where prepping and ham radio kind of go in hand. For example, if something was to happen or our government went down for some reason or the other, then I can get on my HF rig and I can talk all around the world so that I can say, hey, relay information to another country or to somebody else that can get that information to their government saying, hey, America's been attacked, or America's going through something, we need help, and they can send over, hopefully be nice enough to send over some help. So it's really a very vital thing. And to kind of bring it to a little bit more realistic situation, on 9/11, which is actually the 20th anniversary is coming up here in a couple of days.
Saturday, yes.
Don't forget about all those people that have died, and all that stuff, and those 344 firefighters that ran into those burning buildings to try to save strangers, all those police officers, EMTs, and all those innocent people. On that day, the cell phone lines were all completely tied up.
Yeah, they were.
Ham radio operators came out of the woodworks and reestablished communication, and for several days that was the only means of communication around New York, was through amateur radio. So that unfortunately happened. However, because of people like me and Farmer Son Prepping, all the stuff that we do as amateur radio operators goes into helping other people survive.
Yeah. And for the new people that don't know, you were in the Firefighters Association and stuff like that. So tell them a little bit about that. So you've been in emergency services for a while.
Yes, I'm a firefighter. I'm a captain at my department, and I've been on our local ambulance. I've been a firefighter since 2006, I believe. I worked on an ambulance for several years. I've been in law enforcement ever since pretty much I was old enough to be in. So I've been in the emergency services all throughout, every part of it. So there have been situations where ham radio has come into play for, even me. I've been from Southern Oklahoma. I've been deployed to several years ago to up in the panhandle of Oklahoma, back when they had all those wildfires, and a lot of ham radio operators were out there helping coordinate stuff and getting a lot of our equipment up and running that for some reason wasn't working or anything like that. And funny story is, literally less than a week after I got my ham radio license, one of our fire trucks, the antenna the radio in our fire truck quit working. So I had to go through and troubleshoot a lot of issues that might have been that I could try to fix. However, turns out that it's just the radio itself is bad, and we've got to send it back to ICOM. So ham radio, and even at my other job in law enforcement, sometimes our radios or our dispatchers' radios act up, and I will give them a hand and help them out, and usually I can get it fixed within just a few minutes.
Oh, that's wonderful. So there's a lot of value, and I mean, for those that are new to you, they need to know, what you're talking about. You've been throughout a lot of the different emergency services throughout. You worked on the ambulance too, correct?
Yes.
So he's got a really good whole outlook as far as emergency services on this. He has valuable information, and I hope y'all will sub up his channels and help him out. Again, if y'all could share his channel links one more time for the people that just came in. He has two channel links, the Oklahoma Prepper, and then he has a separate YouTube channel that is called Ham Shack. So he has both of those. So tell us what the different licenses are and kind of what is allowed or required for each part. Like what are you allowed to do in addition to everything before that, if you can?
Okay, so there are right now there are three levels of Excuse me, I'm sorry. My fire pager's going off. I gotta make sure it's not my department.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. So
No,
that's another reason. That's actually the main reason I got my radio is so that I could put my fire department channels on there. But so right now there are 3 levels of amateur operator. The lowest level being technician, which is the most entry level. Then there's general, and then there's extra class. Now, Farmer's Son of Prepping can tell you guys a little more about extra class. Basically, it gives you advantage to use all of the bands within the amateur radio spectrum. We have, as a technician, we basically get to do UHF, VHF, which is 144 to 440, I believe. I can't think. A lot of my stuff. I'm having a bad memory day today. And then some 10 meter band, which is a 28 megahertz, which, and the reason they give you certain selections of the ham bands is so that as a technician, I will start to get into ham radio and I'll start to realize that I love the hobby. And now I want to advance, so I'm going to take my general tomorrow. These are just really incentives to get you up into the higher bands. However, there's a lot of different knowledge from technician to extra. I know Farmer's Son Prepping knows a lot more about ham radio than I do because he's an extra class, and he's probably been a ham radio operator for several years, whereas I've been a ham radio operator for going on 2 months. So,
well, you know, it all it's a good start for us, those of us that are just starting out. So, you know, I appreciate the information that you're giving us, and I really appreciate you being able to come on. I haven't been able to like really visit with you and stuff in a long time. It's so good just to see your face and hear your voice. Okay, so I asked this question in a private deal, but my Baofeng F8 HP, is that going to be enough to use for this beginner?
You said it was an F8 HP?
Yes.
Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
Because there are several Baofeng radios out, and some of them are. Oh yeah, it's a UV5, basically UV5R is all it is. Yes, it is enough to get started in ham radio. However, if you are close to a repeater, you get to talk a lot more. Now, I highly suggest upgrading the antenna because the antennas on those radios are not the greatest.
Right.
The antennas on any radios out of the box are not the best.
I think I've got that larger antenna, actually. I think I paid extra to get the larger antenna, not the little flimsy thingy.
Yeah. So we refer to those stock antennas as rubber duck antennas, but they are okay for, you know, if you're talking across the yard or, you know, to somebody, you know, maybe a few yards away. But really, you want to replace the antennas more than anything. Now, the HP, all it means is there's a higher power, which even though that they can show that they're, you know, 100-watt radios or 20-watt radios, hand radios, they really are not. They are somewhere along the lines of 5 to 8 watts. If you're looking at some, if you're lucky enough to get a decent one.
Okay. So what do you recommend as a good starter radio that will have a little bit more reach than just like line of sight, like the Ugly Prepper said, or a Farmer's Son Prepping?
So if you're wanting to get a base radio, it's like I said earlier, I have a B-Tech And I highly suggest you order, if you're going to order any Bofang products,
Right.
on Amazon, there's a channel, or there's a storefront called B-Tech. They basically order these radios from China, and they fix them up, and they make them, they rebuild them pretty much, and then resell them as B-Tech. Now, they are very affordable radios. My B-Tech UV25X2 is a mobile radio that I actually have set up here as a base station. You can even go into Yaesu's. Yaesu's are a little more on the pricey side. However, they are very good radios. ICOM is an extremely pricey radio. But there are, you can start out, I'm scrolling through Amazon right now to see the different HTs, is what we call HTs, handy talkies.
Okay.
There are several different kinds of radios out there. Bofang is probably the most inexpensive. However, when you're starting to, you kind of get what you pay for. However, they are nice to start out with, and if you're close to a repeater, you can talk really well on a repeater with a Bofang. My suggestion would probably be somewhere around the Yaesu side, and you're starting to get into a $130 handheld compared to the $30 Bofang radio. I've got a drawer full of Bofang's hand radios that they're pretty much, I use them as a fire pager. So if I end up on a fire call and I lose one in a fire, or it gets watered down, and I'm not out $200, I'm just out $35 for a radio that did everything I needed it to do, was to alert me to a fire. So like I said, the B-Tech 25X2, UV25X2 is a great radio to set up in your car or in your house. Or you can even make they call them ammo cans. It's an ammo can that you fit the battery, you mount the radio in, do all that stuff, and the antenna comes out of it. They're really neat little projects. A lot of people use them. A lot of preppers use them as emergency comms, backup radios. So there's a lot of really good use for ham radio in the prepper world. So back to your original question, yes, you can, with your little Bofang F8 HP, you can, if you're close enough to a repeater, get some good distance out of it.
Okay. Kaylin says Iridium 242 built a mobile ham-based station, which he uses with his ham club when his ham club deploys. So that's awesome.
Yes. I follow Iridium 242 as well. And there's a lot of awesome channels out there that provide awesome information on building your own equipment. And that's one of the best part of being a ham radio operator. Like I said, you can take $1,000 radio and hook it up to a couple of pieces of extension cord, and you've got a great antenna, and you can literally talk around the world on it. Now, that being said, even with my base unit, I've actually made let me pull up my QRZ page. But I've actually been able to make from my home a 173 mile contact just on simplex with good propagation. So you can reach out and touch someone with when the weather's good.
So for those of us that are very maybe not so affluent in the technical jargon, what is a repeater for those of us that are clueless? I mean, I think I have an idea, but It just, does it just bounce the signal on further, like it repeats the signal, or what?
In a nutshell, yes, that's exactly what it does. So
Okay.
when you're talking on a repeater system, you're actually using two radio channels. You're using a transmit channel and you're using a receive channel.
Okay.
You transmit on one channel and it goes to the repeater, and then the repeater turns around and rebroadcasts it as you're talking on the other channel, and the repeater has more power, so it broadcasts it on a longer distance. And usually repeater antennas are on towers, so you get a lot of tower and power, to say the least, to make that jump a lot further.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I think maybe that simplified it enough for me. That kind of helps me out a little bit. Let's see. I'm trying to think. So, like, for those of us that are just so new and just not technical, so there's certain frequencies that are going to be accessible to us beginners, but we just can't talk on there, right? And then there's certain ones that are above that, like even once we do get our licenses where we can talk, we still can't talk over those. Those are for professional or military or government.
Yeah, the FCC allocates a lot of frequencies to just technicians alone. The entire 10-meter band. There's quite a bit of frequencies on that 10-meter band that you can talk on alone. Now on the UHF VHF side, there's a lot of frequencies down there as well that you can talk on, and it's really fun to get on the UHF VHF and talk that way. You get to meet a lot of people, and this is one thing that I wanted to tell you guys. You can learn a lot of stuff in the book, and you can learn a lot of stuff just by studying for the test, just on the app that I showed you alone. That being said, the book only teaches you what the book has inside of it. You will learn a lot more by picking up the radio and talking on it than you will from a book, and you're learning from a lot of people who have had some great experience. For example, Farmer Son Prepping is an extra. I want to get a hold of him and talk more with him.
Okay.
So if you can catch me on my email. I'll type it in the chat real quick. My ham radio email is KI5QQM, which is my ham radio call sign, at gmail.com. If I can learn how to type.
So sorry, farmers. Let's see. Yeah, it's not showing me how I can take you out of timeout. I'm so sorry, y'all. For those that were timed out, it was an accident. So please forgive us.
I do that all the time. I used to do that all the time. I would always put somebody in timeout by accident. But feel free to email me. My email is ki5qqm@gmail.com. It's in the chat. And especially if you're interested in anything, like I said, again, all of the equipment that I use is all in the descriptions of my Ham Shack channel on every one of the videos. So you can go through and check out and it's all Amazon. They're all Amazon links. So you can go through and check them out and see what you like and dislike, or even shop around. As long as it gives you a base starting point. If you want to spend a little more money and get you a Yaesu or a ICOM or a Kenwood radio, they're a little more pricey, but if that's what you feel more comfortable with, by all means do it. There are some great radios out there. More than anything, and I cannot stress this enough, any radio you buy, as long as you pair it with a great antenna, will give you the opportunity to talk all over the world.
Okay, Fishes, you're fine, girl. Y'all, Fishes didn't mean to do the timeout thing. She was nodding off. She had a dental procedure done today, and she's still a bit like nodding off from her medicine and stuff. So it's making her the medicine's making her a little loopy. So she nodded off and accidentally put a couple of people in timeout. Fishes, it's okay. I understand. You rest well. Love you, girl. As you can see, Rain Country is not upset about it. I'm sure Farmer's Son isn't either. It's all good. But yeah. And yeah, Frankie put his email over on the side chat. Frank, are you showing, excuse me, as a mod over there? You are, aren't you?
I have no idea, honestly.
Let me look. Let me pull it back up. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't show on my end that I am. I don't know if it does on everybody else's end.
Okay.
Well, I am in the Ham Shack channel, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you probably.
But it let you share. Let me. I'll add you as a mod over there too.
All right. So
in that way.
Really, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about propagation. Propagation is this really cool thing that happens in the atmosphere, and it happens usually every morning and every evening, and it is basically tropospheric ducting. And the easiest way for me to explain that is the troposphere can take your antenna, your frequencies, and pretty much just tunnel them into any certain direction, and it's mostly specific. And I watch. The reason I keep looking over here is I've got another screen over here that is the propagation map, and it is showing right now over my area the propagation is going good. And the link to that, I'll put it in here as well. It's APRS.menolink.org. I can't talk and type at the same time.
I'm the same way. It's okay. Again, for those of you that are coming in here later in the chat, this is Frank with the Oklahoma Prepper. His channel is the Oklahoma Prepper, but he also has a separate channel called Ham Shack. He is a recent ham operator, licensed ham operator. So he's new to the hobby, but he's already like completely, it's completely taken him over, I think.
To say the least.
Anyway, so Frank and I have been friends for years and years on here. He used to do oh my goodness, Prepper'S Powwow with me and Mouse Toes and several other people. So if you haven't seen those, go back and watch those. Those are fun and have a lot of great information on them.
So really quick, back to propagation. Now, the link that I shared in there, the APRS.menolink.org, basically what that does is there's a certain type of radio traffic, if you will, called APRS, is automatic packet reporting system. And what it does is it sends out these little bursts of data throughout the airwaves, and whatever radio stations, and I am considered a radio station.
Okay.
As long as I have my license in my wallet and I am operating a radio, I'm considered a station. So any stations that pick up those APRS signals and send a QSO or a confirmation is actually put up on a map, and it shows where those radio contacts have been made, and it kind of gives you physical proof that the bands are open, and it turns that into a map, and it shows it up on the on the web page, and it's really awesome. And I think it updates like every 30 seconds or something like that. But it's really awesome. It's a really awesome tool to use as a ham radio operator. So, and another thing, really quick, is the reason I say that the band is dead is weather plays a big effect on ham radio. Whenever I was saying earlier, even though the 10-meter band is dead, basically what it means is there's no sunspot activity at the moment, so there's no propagation for the 10-meter band. So therefore, I can't just get on there, call CQ, and talk to just anyone because basically no DX or distance communications. So it's really hard to get out there and talk around the world right now. But later on here in the next couple of years, the 10-meter band should open up, and we should get some stuff.
Okay, we have two different questions here. HRM weapons machinist, the questions on the screen here, is that like reliable range is considered to be line of sight, and the distance to the radio horizon can be estimated based on antenna height, or is bouncing off the sky?
Okay, if we're talking about propagation, now you're the bouncing off the sky, that one is called skip. And that, funny story, and this you will all understand. Where I work, we were actually getting skipped from another department from several miles away, up in the middle of the state actually. Mm-hmm. And they just happened to be on our same frequencies. The send, receive, the PL tone, everything was all the same, and we just happened to get them in our radio frequency. So we kept saying, where you want us to go? Places we've never heard of. So line of sight is usually based on, for the best way to describe line of sight would be the handheld radios or the HTs. Those are pretty much line of sight. And if you're,
in other words, you have to be able to see somebody visually in order to communicate.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, you don't want any obstructions. You don't want a lot of trees, a lot of buildings or houses in the way, because that does obstruct your antenna distance. Right. Now, there are two terms. One I think I might have coined. The other one has been there forever. When you're talking antennas, height is might. So the higher your antenna, the better distance you're going to get with it.
Right.
Another term that I coined, and y'all will, for those of you that are getting into ham radio or want to or actually do, you will start to realize you need more tower and more power. My radio is a 25-watt radio, and I can hear a lot of people from Fort Worth area talking quite often, but I just cannot reach out and touch them because I don't have enough tower, meaning my antenna is not high enough, and I don't have enough power, which means my radio is not powerful enough. Maybe if I get a 25 or 50 or 75-watt radio, I'll be able to reach out and talk to someone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So like theirs is strong enough to like reach you, but yours isn't strong enough to reach them, kind of.
Right.
I think. Okay. We had Morgan had a question up here. Let's see if I can find it again. Please explain what QSL codes are and why.
The Q codes. The Q codes come from there's quite a bit of a history on it. Q codes come from the old telegraphy days where they would use certain codes. For example, QSL means QSL can mean two different. Let me actually pull it up on the because I don't know a lot of the QSL codes or the Q codes. But let me pull them up on Google real quick. QSL can actually mean two things. QSL. If I'm saying, hey Tasha, QSL, I'm saying, did you copy my traffic? And or if I say, yeah, Tasha, QSL, that means yeah, I copied your traffic. So
you heard what I was saying, or I
yes.
heard what you were saying.
Yes, it is it is pretty much a shortened. It's pretty much, for the lack of better words, is a 10 code. So
okay, so it's a way of saying a really long sentence just by saying Q whatever, like it's okay.
For example, QRN. If I'm saying, hey QRM, that's a question saying, are you being bothered by noise of natural origin like storms or lightning? Or if I say, yeah, QRM, then that means I'm being affected by the weather or something like that.
Okay.
So it's 3 letters that pretty much,
yeah. Okay, and Farmer Son says like QSL's confirmed contact. Okay, yeah. Suburban Hillbilly has a question. What basics? Hey, will y'all please put questions in all caps so it's easier for me to see, because my screen is smaller than it used to be. Suburban Hillbilly says, what basic skills would someone need to repair, and what parts to store in case of SHTF?
So basically, with new radios, it's mostly all chips, and older radios used a lot of tubes, and it was a lot easier to repair older radios. Nowadays, it's all microchips and capacitors and stuff like that. So the main thing that you would want to learn to do is solder. And I actually happen to have some coax right here. This, if you recognize this is just regular TV coax.
Like coaxial cable, yeah.
Exactly. But on this end, I have it stripped down, ready to go into a PL259 connector. And I've got...
So you can buy the connectors that just you will splice onto those?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll show you real quick why this PL... Let me see if I can... I'm going to have to pull it out of the... Actually, no, I don't.
And real quick, while you're doing that, Caitlin wants to know if there's a way that you can mount something on an apartment, because she can't have a pole for an antenna. Could she mount one to the deck post?
Yes, absolutely. There's all kinds of ways to mount antennas to just about anything. If you want to get a small, for example, tram 1180, you can actually zip tie the thing to a post. And you can use it right there off of your deck. Now, really quick, going back to the PL259 connectors, this is pretty much the same thing. It's just smaller diameter cable, but on the ends, you can see there's a little hole.
Here, let me put you on large screen in case somebody's on their phone. They can't see it very well. Okay.
So you can see that little hole right there in the middle. That's where the center conductor actually comes out, and you want to kind of cut it a little bit further back in while it's inside this piece, and you actually have to solder that piece in. So there's a little bit of, there's some specialty tools that you need to get to be able to do this. And again, all the equipment, every single piece of equipment that I use, that I have, is in my links in the description of every video. That way it's a lot easier for people to find. I know that Farmer's Son can get a lot more information. That's just the equipment that I've used and that I feel comfortable using. Now, he also mentioned he's used a mag mount on a pizza pan in an apartment. And a mag mount antenna is just basically an antenna with a magnet on the bottom that you can just stick it on your car, basically. Rain Country asks, what is the highest wattage the average person would want to go? I would say do not do what I did and start out at 25 watts. Yes, you can reach out and touch some people at 25 watts. Very much so. But now that I was bit by the bug. I was bit hard by the hammer. So I want to double that power. And I think I have in the description, and a link in the descriptions is to a 50-watt radio, which is a little more powerful, but it's a little more expensive too. I think it's a $230-something radio. However, it is a BTEC 50X2, UV 50X2. And I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where they actually hook it up to a power meter, and it is not 50 watts. It actually is about 70 watts. So that is my next goal for a mobile radio. That being said, if you want to start spending a lot of money, my suggestion would be getting an ICOM IC9700, which is a $1,500 radio. So, but like I said, once you get bit by the bug, it's really, really an expensive hobby. Farmer Son Prepping says a good SWR meter comes in handy. Absolutely. You need a good SWR meter if you're going to build your own antennas. Tram has a good habit of pre-tuning their antennas before they get shipped out to you. So even if you do have an SWR meter, which those things are very expensive. I need to get one, but I need to save up the money to get one. Those are more expensive than my radio and antenna combined. So, yeah. But those are very important to get a good SWR. An SWR is standing wave ratio, and ideally you want a 1-to-1 standing wave ratio. 1 to 5 is good. 2 to 1 is pushing it. 2 to 1 is good for a base unit, but you really don't want a bad SWR on a mobile or even a handheld radio.
Okay, and Rain Country made a good point. Range and quality matter, though, in a serious situation. So definitely, it depends what you're getting the ham radio for. If you're looking at a ham radio for serious, like a shift scenario, Teotihuacan scenario, something like that, you've got to weigh in your mind how far you want to reach and be able to communicate, not just hear, but communicate. But even just hearing you can gain valuable information from hearing that information from other parts of the country or the world or your region. So, I mean, it's still valuable, but it'd be nice to be able to ask questions if you need to. It'd be nice to be able to communicate what's going on in your area if you need to, things like that. So that, like, if you have family that's really, a good distance away and they're wanting to bug out to your place, okay, or come to your home because of a situation going on, it may be a worse situation in your area and you don't want them to risk themselves coming your direction. So those are all things that you have to consider whenever you're purchasing your equipment. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make? Like for you were talking about the 25 watt thing and all of that, but what is some of the biggest mistakes that you think like just as an amateur, I know, seeing people make or that maybe that you made that you would like to see done differently for us? Like, it's better for us to not waste our money on this and just go ahead and go for this if we're going to do it, because you're going to be much more pleased and stuff like that. So
well, first of all, the biggest mistake that I've made was getting my ham radio license. Because well, okay, no, joking aside, so the biggest mistake I've made so far was low power radios, or QRP, which is another Q code is QRP, which means reduced power or low power. So it will bite you once you get to make your first contact, once you get your first QSL card in the mail. And there's all kinds of stuff. I think make sure, jumping into HF before anything else, you will spend a lot of money. I've actually had this radio for several years. It's been used mainly, and in fact, only as my fire radio. I've only used it as fire pager, and then I got my ham radio license, and now it's a lot more. Make sure that you study. You don't have to really study. Make sure you learn. There are the Amateur Radio Relay League, or ARRL, has a lot of good books out on how to make radio antennas. Be sure that you use a really good coax cable.
Hey, real quick, Amateur Radio Relay League, is that what it's called? ARRL? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to put it in there for the side chat. So.
Yeah, they have a really good book out on how to make antennas. Now, you can destroy a lot of really expensive and really good equipment by not using proper coax cable. When you're using coax cable, this is just some Walmart stuff. I was actually redoing TV cable, which is why I have this, and then I ended up getting some extra TV cable. So this is just going to go for antenna purposes. But really good coax cable is probably one of the most important things. You don't want sharp bends like I'm doing here, which I'll end up cutting off. But you don't want your radio cables and coaxes to be bunched up like this, because you can damage a lot of stuff just by doing that, and it will affect your your standing wave ratio. So you don't want to do that. You want to take really good care of your equipment. After all, you're paying a lot of money for it.
Right.
So lightning arresters is probably one of the most important things that you want. And I know I have one. Here it is, actually. This is a lightning arrestor. Your coax goes in through here from the antenna out to the radio, and it is grounded down with this grounding copper and screwed into the side of the radio. And this is actually, in this tube, there's actually a gas-filled cartridge, and it's almost like a spark plug. It takes, it won't survive. This will not survive a direct lightning strike. But this, if there's a nearby lightning strike and you get one of the streamers near your property, this will actually take the blunt of your strike and it will dissipate it, and you will be able to, hopefully your equipment survives it. But that being said, again, you will not survive a direct lightning strike to your antenna. Or let me say, your radios will not. So be very cautious. I'm actually, the antenna that I have, I actually found a heck of a deal on Amazon. It's a $65 antenna. And I do plan on buying several more for that reason, because apparently fiberglass, from what I've learned, fiberglass is an excellent attractant to lightning. I don't know why, because it's a conductor. But fiberglass is an electric, does love lightning. And you will destroy a lot of stuff with a single lightning strike.
Okay. So, you know, if you're smart, once you see there's a major storm coming your way or near your area with lightning in it, an electrical storm, you want to probably disconnect those things if at all possible. That'd be the best. Exactly. And Kimmy said I need to take notes. Kimmy, I will on this one. I will have this up, and you can. I'll also have the side chat open too. So Farmer's Son made a lot of great points on the side deal as well during that. So you can go back and take notes. I'm going to have to, because trying to read the side chat and listen to Frank, I'm not real great at doing the dual thing either. So I completely understand, and I will be definitely going back through and taking notes on suggestions on the equipment and things like that. So I know that it seems like it's over a lot of people's heads. It seems like a really technical, and there was a lot of letters and words and stuff like that used. So, please don't be overwhelmed. Just get yourself a good beginner's ham radio operators booklet. Start reading there. It helps to explain things. I have one around here somewhere I need to get back into, but it'll help explain things so that you understand what all of these, all of the jargon is. Okay. It's just like with prepping. We have SHTF, TIOTWAKI, BOBs, and GOODs and all of that. We have all of those like letters to represent things. It's the same with ham radio. So, don't feel overwhelmed. Take it a step at a time, just like you've done with your preparedness, and you'll be good. Morgan made a point. Morgan's telling Mouse Toes how to attract lightning. All right. Well, Frankie, thank you so much. Y'all, if you haven't, one last time on the links, we'll give it 1 minute, but the Oklahoma Prepper is your original YouTube channel name, and Ham Shack is for your recent ham radio channel over here on YouTube. So please get both of those subbed up. Frankie, I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that we're back in contact with each other. Love you, man. And y'all, please sub up both of his channels, show him some love, hit that bell, watch some of his videos, show him some support. All right. Thank y'all so much for watching. I wish the best for all of you. I love you. God bless. I love you. And remember that God loves you. Prep for it, guys. Prep for it all. Bye, guys.